So before the break, we were talking about how the Federal Reserve didn't swoop in and magically, save the real estate market with aggressive rate cuts. In fact, they kind of announced the opposite, which we'll see how that plays out. But what I want to talk about right now are where I see some really good opportunities in the Charleston real estate market. They're kind of hiding right in plain sight. And believe it or not, they're not necessarily resale homes, right? They are new construction homes. Now, if you've driven around Charleston lately, obviously you've seen all the development in Summerville, Johns Island, Cane Bay, Nexton, Carolina Park. I mean, it's the development is really everywhere. And on the surface, looks like builders are doing fantastic, right? Model homes are beautiful. Sales offices are busy. Behind the scenes, though, I think there's a little something different going on. And this is what builders really kind of don't want you to know. But across the country, builders have become significantly more aggressive over the past year, not because business is booming, but because buyers have become much more selective, right? The frenzy we experienced a few years ago is obviously over. And back then, builders could release, 10 lots on a Friday morning, and by lunch they were sold. In fact, they went so far as that some builders just said, hey, real estate agents, we don't need you anymore. We're just going to pay you, a little flat fee here for helping us bring your buyer along. Thanks so much. We'll take it from here, which didn't sit well with a lot of real estate agents. And there are some builders out there that now have a pretty tarnished reputation as a result of that. And not just that, quality of construction and the way in which they treat people and address issues that are their fault. But I'm not going to get on that soapbox. There are plenty of great builders out there. You just have to hold them accountable. But builder sentiment has gone down significantly. And according to the latest industry data, 6 of the 10, big national builders are currently offering incentives to buyers, and roughly a third of them are just cutting prices outright. And for those of you that don't know, builders hate cutting the price. They really don't like it. And the reason why is because they want to maintain appraisal values in that neighborhood. If they cut the price, then everybody that's purchased a home, a new construction home in the course of the past few months, immediately takes a hit, right? And that doesn't sit well with them. So what they do is they offer incentives, right? They're looking at things like closing costs or a temporary 2-1 rate buy down like we talked about. Maybe even a permanent interest rate buy down. A lot of these builders own the lender, the finance company, the mortgage company that is going to provide the mortgage to you. And so they're going to give you some great incentives in return for using their lender. And on the surface, they're probably not making any money on the lending side, but they're selling the home, profiting, and so on and so forth. So it all kind of makes sense to them. But I think that you as a buyer can win against these builders in certain areas, in certain situations. You do have to kind of time it right, but what we're seeing is builders negotiating again. And obviously, for a lot of builders, their number one lead source is us, real estate agents. So guess what? Now they're starting to treat us a little nicely again. That's been a nice change. But here's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that buyers make. They're driving around, they see a new construction community, they pull in, they go to the sales office. All you're doing is scratching an itch. You're not there to buy a house. You're not there to build a house. You're curious. And so here's what happens. The sales rep is going to make you sign in, right? Record your information. They're going to ask you if you have a real estate agent. You're probably going to say no. And then if you, in fact, are interested in buying or building a home in that community, there are some builders out there that will just say, hey, look, you came to us. We are the procuring cause of the sale. You can have a real estate agent, sure, but we're not going to pay him. We're responsible for making the sale. And now you, as a buyer, are left with trying to find a real estate agent that's going to represent you and do a good job for you and, take dozens of hours out of their life to assist you in this process for free. So that's probably not going to happen, which means that you're just going to work with the agent that's on site And all the information they've given you is because they represent the seller. Some of these folks are licensed agents. Some of these are employees. But either way, they represent the builder, and they're always going to represent the builder. Now, of course, they have to be, fair and honest, and there are rules that they have to abide by when purchasing the property. But they're certainly not there they're not in your corner. So the thing that I want to stress is have a conversation with the real estate agent before you go into that sales community and say, like, hey, if I mention that you would be working with me, you guys can have that side conversation, maybe sign an agreement that just says, hey, for this specific development, if you want to buy a home, I'm the agent, which protects you, gives you that representation rather than having to work with the agent that represents the builder. Because that's, in all honesty, that's where I hear all the horror stories. That's where I hear all the issues with regard to new constructions, because they don't have somebody in their corner to hold that builder accountable. And these builder contracts, they're all different. There's no standard boilerplate builder contract. And so guess what? Since they write their own, who does it favor? The builder. So I think it's just really important that if you're going to look for a new construction home, there are some great deals out there. If you want access to what I've put together is like, here are the different communities and here are the incentives that they're offering. If you're considering new construction, I really don't know of a place or agent or someone that I don't think anything exists that says, hey, here's all the incentives that are going on right now in all the different communities with all the different builders. Of course, you can go to each individual builder to get that for their specific communities, but I don't know of any other one-stop shop place where you can say, hey, if I want new construction, here are the incentives that exist in these different developments. If you want access to that, feel free to give me a call, or you can just text me and I can send that over to you. Text the word builder and text it to 843-800-0065. Text the word builder to 843-800-0065, and I'll send you a list of all the new construction communities in the area you're looking in and the associated incentives. And you can see why it is now so hard for some of these owners of homes, right, that are in the resale market to compete with new construction. Some of these new construction communities, you walk in and you've got an introductory interest rate of 3.99%. That's really attractive. So if you want information on that, on that kind of stuff, again, just text the word builder to 843-800-0065, or you can call that number and we can have a chat about what you're looking for, and I'll send you that relevant information. Or just check us out online and reach out to us that way, and we can get in contact that way. That website address is listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. But just remember, for your own protection, if you intend on using a real estate agent to represent you in a new home purchase, you're building a home, you're buying an existing new home, I think it is absolutely imperative that you have your own representation. Doesn't cost you anything because these builders will provide compensation to the agent so long as we kind of go through the appropriate channels and we have that opportunity to have that conversation. So I guess the whole point is that you just don't put yourself between a rock and a hard place now that you have this information before you step foot into a sales office at a new construction community. Ask those questions. And if they're going to cut out an agent in the future and prevent you from having your own representation that is paid for by that builder or seller, that's obviously important information to have. So if you'd like to work with us on new construction, we've done a lot with new construction. We've got a builder trade-in program that I've been the president of here for several years. So if you want more information on that, 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065, or listingsincharleston.com.